Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm grateful to all honourable and right honourable members this evening for the debate that we've had. Delivering the deal negotiated with the EU remains the government's central priority. It is neither our preference nor our expectation that we will leave the EU without a deal. However, as a responsible government, we must prepare for all scenarios. In the budget, we furthered that commitment by confirming an additional £500 million of funding in 1920, taking the total government investment in preparing for EU exit to over £4 billion. At budget, to help ensure the government, ensure that the tax system can continue to function in any EU exit outcome, we announced a series of modest, sensible provisions. This included a power to make necessary minor technical amendments to UK tax legislation. It also allowed, as we've heard, for the government to introduce a carbon emissions tax to replace the EU emissions trading system, ETS, in the event of no deal. In including these measures in the finance bill, our foremost motivation was to provide certainty to taxpayers, the kind of certainty one would expect from any responsible government. Let me turn to the amendments number 7 in the name of my right honourable friend, the lady right honourable member for Normanton and Pontefract. Prior to the Committee of the Whole House, which considered Clause 89, I placed a list of changes envisioned by this clause in the House of Commons library. Those right honourable members who have taken the trouble to review that list will see that they are indeed minor technical changes. Out of minor and technical changes, these are the most minor and technical changes. And since then, we have received no indication from any member in this House to the contrary. Clause 89 is simply prudent preparation to provide our taxpayers with the certainty they deserve. As I made clear, the government doesn't want or expect a no-deal scenario. That's why we've negotiated the withdrawal agreement that will see us leave the EU in a smooth and orderly way on the 29th of March and sets the framework of our future relationship. As we heard from my right honourable from West Dorset and from Grantham and Stamford, the best way of avoiding a no-deal scenario, if that is of grave concern to members of this House, is to support the withdrawal agreement next week. Unless Parliament agrees a deal, the UK will leave the European Union on the 29th of March with no deal, as this was the agreement which we all knew when we voted to trigger Article 50. This is now the law, and this amendment before us tonight does not change that simple truth.
Could the Minister just clarify his last sentence? Is he saying that if the deal is voted down next week, that it will become government's stated objective to deliver no deal?
Minister. No, the point that I've just made is that the law of the land is that the UK will leave the European Union on the 29th of March, and nothing contained in this amendment will change that. The only difference this amendment will make, as I'll come on to say, is that the UK will be somewhat less prepared for that eventuality. The purpose of Clause 89 is to provide taxpayers and HMR... I will give way. Sorry, right
I'm very grateful to my honourable friend who's doing a valiant job, which I don't envy. I just want to ask him this. Does he accept that although it is the law at present, as he says, that we leave on March the 29th, this House of Commons has the ability to change with the House of Lords and Her Majesty that provision?
Minister. Well, the House of Commons has the right to make the law, but the law as it is today is that we leave on the 29th of March. And the point that I'm making is that whatever the intentions of the Right Honourable Lady and those who might wish to support this amendment, all that will be achieved by supporting this amendment is denying our citizens and taxpayers the degree of certainty that we wish to give them. If I may, Well, I'll give way one last time, but I only have a couple of minutes.
Well, I also extend my sympathies to my friend and honourable friend who's drawn the short straw in presenting this particular debate. But he's very eloquently just trying to minimise the significance of the whole thing. But, of course, he realises there are big issues behind this. Could he tell us what contingency arrangements the Treasury have made for the fiscal impact of leaving with no deal and its impact that it's likely to have on our trade, our manufacturing industry and so on? He must concede that the figures we've published for future deficits and debts and so on will be made utterly meaningless if we leave with no deal, and a fiscal crisis will occur. Is the Chancellor, does he know, actually planning the emergency budget that he'll probably require?
Well, my right honourable friend and constituency neighbour tempts me to go into areas that I shouldn't. But the Chancellor has said that we will be prepared, that we have fiscal room available. That's what he stated in the budget as certified by the Office of Budget Responsibility. And he appears to be making the case for making prudent preparations in case of a no-deal scenario, which is all that this clause seeks to achieve. Well, I'll give way one last time, but I apologise to the right honourable. I've only had
to my honourable friend, isn't it the case, with all due respect to his department, that they published a series of figures about the economic disaster that was allegedly going to occur if we voted to leave the European Union? None of that's happened, and that what we have here is an attempt to blackmail the government into not going ahead with a decision that was taken after a majority of the population voted to leave the European Union.
Well, we are leaving the European Union. We wish to do so with a deal. The House will vote upon the deal next week, but we must and will prepare for all scenarios. I will give way one last time because, of course, it's her amendment. The right
Through him, will he confirm that he'll still be able to use Clause 89 powers if he either gives the House a chance to vote on no deal or, alternatively, takes the opportunity to apply for an extension of Article 50 instead?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Clause 89 would give the government the ability to provide certainty to taxpayers now, and that's what we want to ensure. We don't want to inhibit the ability of HMRC and the government to provide that critical certainty. Who would want to do that? Who would want to diminish certainty to taxpayers at this time? I know the Right Honourable Lady has listed a number of businesses. Those businesses want certainty, and by supporting her amendment, we diminish that certainty, and we diminish our preparedness, admittedly only modestly, but we diminish our preparedness for a no-deal scenario. We will not be deterred, Mr. Speaker, from making sensible preparations. The public expect us to do so, and using the finance bill in this manner to prevent or frustrate preparation for any eventuality is unwise and irresponsible. I therefore urge the House to reject all the amendments and new clauses tabled against clauses 89 and 90 tonight, to give our constituents and taxpayers across the country the degree of certainty that they deserve.